Hi everyone, welcome to the February 2022 edition of Farsight's Human News, the remote viewing news forecast show that tells you what is going to happen, not what did happen. I'm Aziz Brown. Before I go on, let me tell you about our next major mysteries project. This is a project that you are all going to want to see. The post-2024 U.S. presidential election. That is correct. Now, let's be clear. We are not trying to predict the winner of the next presidential election. It is very likely that the election will be contested no matter who wins. What we are interested in is what happens after the election, specifically in December 2024 and January 2025. Remember that the attack on the U.S. Capitol building happened on January 6, 2021. So, December and January are the two hot months for the next presidential election. Also, remember that our research here at Farsight indicates that there are multiple timelines with everything. Everything. So there is no single future, there are only multiple futures. But there is a probability of something happening based on current conditions in the United States. And that is what we want to see. Based on current conditions, what happens in December 2024 and January 2025, and in just 2 weeks around the 15th of February. We will show you what we found out. The title of the New Mysteries Project is The U.S. 2024 Election, Forecasting the Aftermath. Honestly, friends, you really need to see this no matter what your political persuasion. Now, we always try to hit our announced release date, but sometimes we are a day or two late. So be patient with us, please. Quality is everything to us. So we are aiming for the 15th of February, so mark it on your calendar. Friends, let me take a moment to also remind you that our Farsight Intelligence Briefing will happen on February 6th in about 1 week. In that intelligence briefing, Dr. Courtney Brown will be presenting an overview of a very complex group of extraterrestrials, the Essassani, who are essentially a genetic hybrid population that is a mixture between the so-called Greys and humans. We have some information that will likely be new to all of you and which we think you need to know. If you look at all of Farsight's projects, what you will see is that the idea that humanity has been quietly evolving on planet Earth for a great many years is totally incorrect. ET manipulation of humanity has been nonstop and huge. Moreover, we know now that the saying, as above, so below, is so true. The galaxy has many civilizations with high technology, but the galaxy itself is hardly something that we would call civilized. It has been and remains a war zone of unimaginable complexity. There seems to be two primary philosophical sides. On one side, those who are ferociously insistent upon respecting the principle of free will, almost regardless of the consequences. But on the other side, free will doesn't even exist at all. It is control others or have others control you. Slavery is one of the most common features of our galaxy, and we are talking about slavery of all types. Sexual, military, labor, and so on it goes. The amount of suffering that is tolerated in our galaxy is absolutely mind-boggling. That is what we see in our remote viewing studies. Before he died, the late physicist Stephen Hawking expressed great fears of humanity contacting advanced extraterrestrial life. Now, we know that his fears were very well grounded. It is just that they were too late. The really bad stuff already happened. Well, the Essassani are part of our past and future, and the complexity of the interactions between Earth humans and the Essassani are extreme. The Essassani are an enslaved race, and many or most of them may not even know this. Moreover, once you see the February intelligence briefing, you will understand that the Essassani desperately needs humanity, and humanity desperately needs the Essassani. Finally, to get you ready for the February intelligence briefing, we are asking our audience to read the book by David M. Jacobs, Walking Among Us. Dr. Jacobs is a recently retired university professor who has written a number of books about the so-called abduction phenomenon. In doing his research, his last book, Walking Among Us, is a well-researched book that focuses on the behavior of what he calls the hybrid extraterrestrial population that is involved in the abduction phenomenon. We want you to read this book so that you can get an idea of their psychological state of mind, their collective personality, even though Dr. Jacobs focuses only on the negative side of the extraterrestrial activity. We will put it all into a more balanced perspective in the intelligence briefing. But what is important now is that people get an idea of how the Essassani think, at least those extraterrestrials who interact with humans during the so-called abductions. But you will get more than just that from the book. You begin to understand how common it is for extraterrestrials of all types in our galaxy to have extreme telepathic and neural engagement capabilities. Humanity is the anomaly in this regard, and there is a reason for this. We are going to explain how all of this fits together in February's intelligence briefing. But for now, to prepare, we hope you get a chance to read Dr. Jacobs' book, Walking Among Us. Moving on, for those of you who want personalized instruction in remote viewing, Princess Jeaneé is teaching remote viewing both individually and in groups. Our methods are sufficiently complex that we use pre-printed templates for our sessions, and Princess can work with you individually or in groups as you learn to use these methods as well. Our approaches address a wide range of applications that we do here at Farsight, including investment evaluations and forecasting. We do lots and lots of stuff that nobody else does, and it's a big subject, but for those who are interested, Princess will show you how we do what we do. Be patient in learning any of our methods. Nothing that we do was learned in a day. Also, understand that when Princess teaches remote viewing, no one at Farsight gets any financial benefit from this. Princess does this entirely on her own. Remember, also, that there are a large collection of instructional videos on farsightprime.com. Also, our updated Seco Plus project is now fully operational. Information about this can be found on our website, farsight.org. Seco Plus stands for Contemporary Investigations of Cryptocurrency Plus Other Opportunities. We focus on both cryptocurrency opportunities as well as other high-tech edgy projects. In our original Seco project, we investigated a group of cryptocurrencies that we feel will survive and thrive based on probing for adoption using our specialized remote viewing procedures and methods of analysis. These forecasts are available for free to see on YouTube, but the identities of the currencies are sold separately on our website, farsight.org. However, the new Seco Plus project will expand our investigations to also include certain cutting-edge technologies and other realms where unusual high-tech investments are being made. Basically, we want to use remote viewing to see which are the major elements that will reshape our future on this planet, including a continued focus on cryptocurrencies, especially those which are currently inexpensive. We are searching for real game changers that many investors may want us to target. We will continue to do these projects on a monthly basis, and we expect to publish them regularly as our results come in and are finalized. As before, the forecast will still be available for free, but the identities of these entities under investigation are sold on our website. Moreover, everyone who purchased our past Seco identities will automatically receive our new Seco Plus forecasts at least through the end of 2022. And anyone who purchases our Seco Plus forecast identities will receive all of our past Seco identities as well. There is no extra charge for this. The crypto markets are down right now, and many people consider this to be a great time to purchase more of the promising cryptocurrencies. Again, as with all of our economic forecasts of any type, including our Seco forecast, nobody at Farsight is a licensed financial advisor, and we do this for entertainment and educational purposes only. Nonetheless, we feel that as we continue to do this, it will become increasingly difficult for people to doubt the reality of remote viewing. Also, we could really use your help if you share our YouTube content with your friends. Be sure to like our videos, but really try to click on the share button and send our content to your friends. Word of mouth has always been the best way to spread really new ideas. Relying on institutions to make fundamental change in our world is almost a contradiction in terms. Real change happens from the actions of people, not institutions. Institutions typically resist change. They always have and they always will. Since all of you are people, help us make the change happen. It's a people thing. Moving on. How do you hear about all of our activities that we do at Farsight so that you can participate and get the latest when they happen, including our live streams? To start with, we use our email list and YouTube to make our major event announcements. So there are two things that you need to do. First, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel and remember to click the notification bell that appears after you hit the subscribe button. This is the only way that YouTube will notify you about the new events, especially our live stream events. Just subscribing doesn't actually do anything. The notification bell is the important part, but that only notifies you of the things that we release on YouTube. To be notified about the things that we release on farsightprime.com, which you can watch using our Apple and Android apps on the web and on your home TV, you need to subscribe to our free email newsletter found on our website at farsight.org. You can also allow our apps to notify you of our new releases on farsightprime.com. Be sure to do all three things. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Farsight, and remember to click the notifications bell, and then subscribe to our free email newsletter that you can find on our website. And finally, go to the settings of our app and allow it to give you notifications on the new releases on farsightprime.com. The links for YouTube and our newsletter are in the description area below this video, and the app is, well, it's on your phone. Those are how we announce what we do. We never send out spam and we never give our subscriber list to anyone else for any other purposes. Now, on to the human news. Let's start by summarizing what happened last month with our January Human News program. We had a very interesting month. The sessions by Intisam, Shantae, and myself all pointed towards a major confrontation in one or more urban areas. Protests, especially involving large vehicles. Based in part on audience feedback, and yes, we do read those comments that people do make on the YouTube discussion areas as well as the farsightprime.com forums, it seems that one of the greatest correlations with those sessions is with the COVID protests that have been going on in Canada and, to a lesser extent, Australia. These two protests are called the Freedom Convoy and the Convoy to Canberra, respectively. The Canadian protests in particular have been really big and big news as well. In Canada, 50,000 truckers traveled to Ottawa, Canada's capital, to participate in those protests. Both Kahmia and Princess reported on a calamity involving water. Video was being recorded, and an event which started out to be pleasant ended up as a calamity as well. Now, there was one event that was reported on in the news which matched this exactly. In Brazil, a cliff collapsed on boats containing mostly young people on January 9th, 2022. Probably because of the quality of the video that was recorded at the event was big news internationally. It was terrifying to watch the huge cliffs break loose and fall on top of boats filled with young people. We thank our audience for pointing out these hits. Finally, Rock Archie used a method of remote viewing that allows for multiple news events to be perceived within one session. Some of his perceptions clearly match the Freedom Convoy protests going on in Canada. He even clearly sketches the large trucks, the major gatherings in urban areas, the security people trying to control the protests, the works. However, some of his other perceptions seem to address the Hwasong-12 ballistic missile launch by North Korea at the end of January, the biggest missile to be launched by North Korea since 2017. Now, let's move on to this month's Human News forecast for February 2022. Remember, we could always be wrong, and all remote viewing must be seen as an experiment, not a certainty. But look at the data for yourself, make your own decisions, and then let's watch the month roll out to see what actually happens. We have 4 remote viewers who participated in this month's project: Kahmia, Dunson, Princess Jeaneé, Shantae, and myself. These reports are amazing to watch. It is best if you just watch them yourself without me actually trying to explain them in advance. So let's begin. I will return after all the reports are presented to help pull everything together.
For my first visual, I have this very large mountain and then other peaks in the background. And then I have kind of a level topography in front of that. I have several structures here, but it doesn't really feel like a city, maybe like a small town or like scattered residences like all around, right? So got a little mountain, that, a little base surface here, and then structures here, here, here. And then I also see that there's structures like closer to the mountain. You know, these are on the base surface in front of me, and then there's some that are like way back on the actual mountain. So like, make them smaller. Okay, so scattered structures everywhere. Cool. I'm catching a lot of grays, blacks, and blues, and then some sort of like white color, I think. So I also feel like there's not really any subjects here. This feels kind of like the place was abandoned, but not abandoned, because it doesn't feel like everybody just like up and left and is never coming back. It really just feels like it's been evacuated. But I do feel like there's still a couple of subjects kind of lingering around in this area. So another thing that I'm seeing here is this big like gray kind of mass or like cloud dynamics type thing on top of this mountain. So it's just like, there we go. So just like a big puff cloud at the very top of this mountain, okay? This cloud up here, it smells like smoky and dusty, and it's very thick in consistency as well. So it's like a thick, gray, dusty cloud above this mountain. I do sense heat, so it does feel like inside of here is kind of warm. So maybe this is like a volcano or something. So inside it feels warm. This air up here, these cloud dynamics are very warm to gray, dusty, cough on it, you know. Ugh. That's what that is. So from there, now I'm hearing a lot of rumbling and roaring, and it almost feels like the ground is shaking. Right? It's kind of like an earthquake. So as it's kind of shaking, I feel a lot of pull downwards, like something is gaining momentum as it is being pulled closer to the base surface. So for another visual that I have, again, we've got this large mountain type thing, okay? We've got the base surface here. We've got a couple of structures here as well. Very scattered out, kind of like I said earlier, residences or just private property. And then again, like this stuff coming out of the top, the clouds, the heat. And then over time, it's kind of spreading to, like you can see it kind of spreading out into the distance. So it's just going out even further. So this must be a big like puff of cloud or a big explosion type thing coming out the top of this mountain. Okay, so I see that. But then also I see these like waves on the mountain that get bigger as it goes down. So it's like a little wave here, a little wave there, a little wave here, wave, right? A lot of momentum kind of building towards the base surface, okay? This is erupting or exploding, and then things are falling from there. I feel that rumbling again, the roaring again, all of that. Now, another thing that I do see is a structure. And the mountain is like right here, okay? I mean like right there. Like. So this structure is very close to this mountain. Okay, there's a structure right there. Cool. From here, I see a structure that looks to be covered in like something that feels soft but cold, and the color is like this kind of white-ish color, so maybe it's snow. This house is literally almost underneath, like this. Imagine if like all of this right here, gone, covered in snow. Okay. You can see like the top of the structure sticking out of the top of this, but you can't really see like the bottom of the structure. And then, because it's just been like swept away and covered in this kind of natural, like snow or something. It's like snow, but heavy, like kind of like ice. But yeah, and so another thing I want to mention here is that there are subjects inside of this structure. I sense that there's maybe a few subjects, one or two, and they feel kind of like male and female, and they feel like they're inside the structure and not necessarily like they're freaking out, but they do feel like they are slightly anxious. You know, they're not really sure what's going to happen from here, but it does feel like they kind of made this decision to stay, and now they're kind of dealing with these repercussions of staying here. Because it feels like the rest of this area got the memo that this is going to come falling down and crashing down. It's kind of like an avalanche or a mudslide type thing. One of those two, the idea, you know, just gaining momentum and even more collects, and as it goes down this mountain type thing, and it sweeps away these structures, and structures are buried underneath this natural material. And then there's a couple of subjects here that feel like a little worrisome, but I feel their confidence, and they don't feel like they're dead or unconscious or anything. They've definitely survived, but it definitely feels like they are on an episode of like Lost or something, you know, like man versus food. I don't know, but something like that. Okay, survival mode. Basically describing the target event, what is happening here is there is a large mountain that has heat inside of it, volcano. It erupts, explodes. From there, this eruption causes this dirt or snow to kind of start trailing down this mountain, gaining speed, gaining velocity, momentum, and overall like size and weight, you know. It is plowing over these structures here, covering structures in this natural material, and then it's also just like completely, the whole area is like empty besides a couple of subjects that I feel like are really close to what's happening here. Everybody else seems to be gone, but that's what's here. One other thing that I'm sensing here is that, you know, even though maybe these subjects don't, like these subjects are here and they're okay, it feels like there's like maybe a couple of subjects that were not inside a shelter, like they were on foot out here, that didn't maybe make it, but it doesn't feel like the casualties are too high. It does feel like a lot of people got evacuated and out of the area in time. So just again, like what caused all of this to happen is the fact that this mountain volcano erupted, and it's just a chain of events, you know, afterwards. This erupts, things start falling, start covering these structures, and subjects are stuck inside. And that is all I have for this target.
Got a city with water. I hear slashing sounds. I hear peaks. There are peaks. Tar, gravel on the ground. Cloud dynamics. Nice little, perfect little city here. Land. more structures. A lot of water. I'm getting the feeling of something tumbling or turmoil. On land, the structures seem to be on land and or near the water. Both natural and man-made environment here. Skin land with structures, peak structures. I'm getting the sense of fire. Which is a deduction. I'm also getting a deduction of California, large city, fire. I'm probably being prejudiced, or if that's the word, ever judgmental. I don't know. I just sense a large city and fire at the moment. I hear strong wind sounds, blazing sounds, rushing or woozing sounds. Aggressive water here, just aggressive water, explosion of some sort. Just very scattered movement by objects and subjects. There's a lot of energetics. Water seems to be, there's a disaster here. I cannot tell if it is natural or man-made or both. Wetness amongst the place. Subjects in disarray. There's sadness, confusion. I'm hearing shooting sounds, shooting noises, sirens, loud noises. People need help badly. These blinking lights with the sirens all over. It's very chill temperature, kind of chilly. Again, there's a lot of water on base surface, minimal foliage, very minimal from where I am. Concrete, sand, mud, gravel textures, also wet textured land. I can feel it in my toes. Wet textured land, dark blue, black, gray colors. Subjects like they are alive but hurting. Casual clothing they're wearing. Again, there's this water-like sensation. I cannot tell if this is, well, this is land, but if this is peaked land or mountain type land. But land, water, structures here like that. I'm going to move to the target event here because I'm feeling an event happening. There is this water crashing sounds that I'm hearing. Definitely something natural happening and causing the natural disaster is causing a man-made disaster in a city with some foliage, minimal in some places, large city, with lots of subjects. People are hurt.
Hi everyone. For my first visual here, I am actually seeing a couple of subjects and they seem to be in an urban environment. However, they're both sort of looking upwards, and let me just draw some of the structures around. They sort of seem to have some curious faces. Maybe I made them look a little too sad, but they did have faces that looked a little similar. Anyway, let me just draw the general environment over here. So I'm seeing a little bit of irregular topography over in the distance over there. And to be honest, there's a lot of foliage, or what looks like foliage, up top on that side of the environment. So let me just draw a little bit of that. Okay, next thing, I'm actually seeing some water over on this side, and then we have a lot more land, and we'll switch colors over to this color. And this is where I'm seeing the structures. This seems like an urban area that seems to be near some grassy topography, a lot of foliage, hilly area, as well as a watery area over there. And this really does seem to be making up the gist of the target environment. Inside that urban area, I'm seeing this scene, a couple of subjects looking upward. However, there is a little bit more. I'm seeing a fast-moving object that sort of just shoots across from across the sky above this whole environment. So it's just, I guess just from this angle, it's just going across and over the urban area, so across the urban area right there. So I'm going to do another sketch just so that it's a little bit easier to tell what's going on. It'll be from the side, but this is basically what I'm seeing with my first pass through of the target. Alright, so let's just draw out that urban area again, but from a side perspective. This is what I'm seeing. This sprawling urban environment with some small structures, some taller structures, basically just an urban environment all the same. And then I am seeing this object, this just shooting across the sky, like right above everything. And I'm also seeing a couple visuals of subjects running in groups. And one of those, I'll try to sketch it out down here. So I'm seeing these subjects. One of them seems to be looking around and sort of yelling and pointing to other subjects while the other subjects are running. And it just seems a little bit chaotic, like there's these subjects in groups and there's other subjects that are just sort of a bit more scattered, but I'm really just sort of focused in on seeing with this pass-through of the target a bunch of subjects, and they're all running, and one of them sort of yelling out and pointing. That one over there with the face I drew, he's sort of just yelling out and pointing in that direction, just being like, ah, bah, bah. And everyone's sort of moving in the direction that that subject is pointing. Meanwhile, right above, there just seems to be this giant arcing object that's just careening over the urban area as well. So let's continue probing and see what else is going on. Alrighty, so now looking more at some of these subjects, I'm seeing there are groups of subjects that have some pretty stern faces. I'll just keep drawing them in stick figure form, but they're pretty unhappy looking faces, and they seem just like they're not really having a good time. And this is just another scene in this urban area. It seems like there's several groups of subjects. Oops, I forgot to give these guys bodies. Several groups of subjects, and they're you know, in a state of distress or agitation at the very least. So probably has something to do, or maybe it doesn't, but there's something going on with a state of agitation and a giant, well, not giant, but a non-surface object that seems to be flying through the sky at a very fast rate. So this seems to be another scene in the urban environment. Subjects running was before. Subjects looking up sort of with concern was the first one, and these ones are angry subjects. So it seems like this is all happening while this is an object that's shooting above overhead this urban area. Let's keep looking. Alright, so moving over to the target event just to see what's the big thing, what's the main event that's happening here at this target. I am seeing the urban area that we talked about before. There are several clusters of subjects within this urban area. So multiple structures, multiple subjects around the environment. And also, I am getting, I'll use this color. I'm getting that object that is flying over here, and it seems like there is more going on with that object. So just change the color for the streaks. I'll go back. And it seems like as this object is shooting forward, shooting over, seems like some smaller objects, I'm seeing 3, but you know, there could be more, but some smaller objects seemed to shoot down from this object. As this object shoots over, it like ejects these little smaller objects that just shoot down at the base surface, and boom, 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 boom. Then there is destructive energetics that sort of emit from this environment right here. Actually, an interesting thing I did notice with this one didn't really cause as much destruction, so I really shouldn't have made this poof so big. But what I saw it actually do is it went down there and then it like clipped the side of a structure and didn't immediately burst into energetics. It clipped the side of a structure, went down, and then it sort of had an energetic spurt, but it wasn't really as big as the other two. The other two just sort of went down, they hit a base surface, they hit something that was hard, and then it just sort of, like just a poof of energetics just splurted out of it. This one, the third one right here, it just seems sort of like it, you know, you dropped like a bowling ball and it clinked against something and then it would like, you know, sort of poofed, but it looked a little different. It just looked a little different from these other ones. Anyway, that is all the data that I have for this target. It does seem to be that this structure or non-surface object that went overhead of this urban area seemed to have dropped 3 things down that seemed to have catalyzed some destruction inside of an urban area that has foliage on the hilltops that I didn't draw over there, but in my earlier sketches you saw foliage on some hilltops as well as a body of water nearby.
For my first visual, I have a base surface with level topography. There's some natural land, mostly man-made land here. There's some tall surface structures. I also have a few smaller structures in the distance. It's cold temperatures here. If I zoom out a bit, I have seen like some cloud dynamics. Have this like, it reminds me of a radius. Like here there's what feels like an urban environment. There's a lot of tall surface structures, but there's this gradual movement away from this area where there's like smaller structures and a little more activity as you go away from this urban environment. And looking at some of the taller structures, it's like they have multiple levels and they're very, like they seem appealing, they're very nice, nicely decorated. There's a very like bright lights here. And you kind of have like a nice view where you can see like everything in the city, but even though the structures are very nice, they're like completely empty from any subjects. Like you would expect there to be a lot of activity here, but there's just no subjects here. I'm also getting this, it's like an odor coming from the areas with these structures, an unpleasant odor, like it's kind of like a rotten smell, like it's just not a good smell coming from just the urban area in general. So looking at like overall, I have this also seeing like some smoke atmospherics, and with the smell, just everything in this urban environment, it seems like something's going wrong, and the subjects that would be here have moved to like the outskirts. There's a lot more foliage, like rural areas, and the subjects are set up in these areas. It seems like there's a lot of movement, noticeably to the south of this urban environment and also to the east. And the subjects have gathered near like some bodies of water. It's not a lot, but it's kind of not really well thought out. They just had to leave this urban environment. So taking like a closer look at these little areas, they've kind of, these areas that they've like been drawn to, I guess. It's like they seem to have made like a, not a barrier, but it's kind of like they've enclosed these areas with a few very simply constructed surface structures. Like, it's a bit crowded, but seems to be like their best option for now. Like, they have what they need to survive, but they might not. Like, the way they're kind of frantically moving about is like they don't feel secure. Like, they won't have what they need for long, probably, to survive. I also see there's kind of like a main area, like a platform where the subjects kind of come together, and it just feels a bit hostile when they really try to come together. And taking a closer look at the subjects, they're like, because there's cold temperatures here, like they have layers of layered clothing. It's kind of like say pale, lighter complexion. There's male and female subjects here, and they don't feel related. They don't feel like they know each other well, and it seems like that's where some of the hostility is coming from. Like, they're here together and they don't really trust each other, but they need to so they can actually survive outside of the city. So overall, the event that I have here is like a large urban environment that has been just completely abandoned, and the subjects they've gone outside of this urban environment, and they've set up these little like camps, and there's multiple camps, and they have a very similar look, all of them, but it wasn't really planned out. And the subjects are just basically trying to survive outside of the city. Yeah.
Okay, so let's draw some conclusions for these data. February 2022 is going to be an interesting month. There are some striking elements within some of these sessions. There seemed to be a mix of natural and man-made events, all calamitous, in February, including possible volcanic and consequential tsunami elements. Some events involve destruction in urban areas, possibly the result of military activity. We will just have to wait and see how this all turns out for the month of February 2022. So, that is it for our February 2022 edition of Farsight's Human News, the news before it happens. Thank you for watching. Please join us again next month in March of 2022 for another look into the future of Earth humans. Also, on FarsightPrime.com, be sure to look out for our next major mysteries project, a forecast of America's post-election 2024 madness, our live stream events, the Farsight ET News, the monthly intelligence briefing, as well as new Farsight economic forecasts. And remember, we do Farsight at Farsight. Farsight is our style of remote viewing. Vocabulary is important in these changing times. I'm Aziz Brown of Farsight. Stay ahead of the curve. Let the mainstream fade in the dust. Be there now.